And finally, let's talk about the last team in the division that finished in last season, the Chicago Bears. What a season it was last year for the Bears. They started off, they headed into the bye week. I just had it. They headed into the bye week 4-2 on a 3-game win streak. That last game of the win streak being against the Jaguars in London. Then they come out of the bye. They lose in probably the most heartbreaking fashion I've ever seen a team lose, but probably for Washington, one of the craziest ways I've ever seen a team win, that 18-15 Hail Mary. And then they proceed to lose their next 9 games. So in that 10-game win streak, 10-game losing streak, Matt Eberflus is fired after 7 straight losses. And then...
Thank God.
Yeah.
He sucks, dude.
Thomas Brown took over for the last 5 games of the season. He went 1-4. Then, obviously, there was the head coaching search, and they came up with former Lions assistant coach Ben Johnson, and it seems like people are pretty high on them. I mean, obviously not really high enough for them to maybe win the division, but high on them to make some significant improvements as they try to move forward in the Caleb Johnson era. Caleb Williams, Jesus.
Caleb Johnson
Williams era. Sorry, someone drafted Caleb Johnson in my dynasty league last night.
It's almost 10 p.m. on a Friday night. You're fine.
He's been on my mind. So new look Bears. Ben Johnson is in control. What is he going to bring scheme wise, playbook wise, in comparison to Matt Eberflus, aside from competent football?
Competent football is the standard right there, right? But like this offense is going to look completely different than it did last year under Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown, right? Like they're going the Bears as a scheme ran RPO and screens at 10.1% and 10.2% respectively. So a fifth of your offense is RPOs, which is pre-dedicated on the defense, and then screens, which is based on the pressure they're giving you as you're calling screens. So a fifth of your game is based on what the defense is giving you. That alone is a bad offense. They're going to go to one of the lowest RPO rates and one of the lowest screen rates at 5.2 and 5.7% respectively. That's 10.9% compared to 20.3. That almost cuts in half how much dependent you are on RPO and screens, where you're not letting the defense dictate to you how the offense is running. You're dictating the offense to the defense, what you're running. So that alone right there is going to be a huge shift in this. And I know 10% doesn't seem a lot, but in a 1,000-play season, that's 100 more plays. And that's probably 5, 6, 7, maybe a little bit more plays per game that you get to dictate to the defense. That can make all the difference in the world, because football comes down to 5 to 10 explosive plays for you to make a difference on offense versus the other team. Like, that's a huge difference in and of itself, right? Now you're going from one of the least heavy run offenses to one of the heaviest rushing offenses. You're going from 33.7% rush rate, which was bottom 5, to 45% rush rate, which is top 5. So a more than 10% difference in non-rushing versus rushing offense. Play action is going to get utilized a lot more. One of the lowest rates at 18.1% to 38%. And this is, again, granted, everything stays the same from last year to this year, which it won't, but in terms of rates, should stay the same relatively within, 3 to 5 percentage points, right? Like Ben Johnson is still going to utilize play action a lot more than screens and RPOs, right? So again, an almost 20% jump in play action or non-play action versus play action, right? Here's where the scheme really comes into it rather than just play calling. The Bears ran a lot of 11 personnel last year with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and obviously DJ Moore. They ran 11 personnel 72.4% of the time, which is one of the highest in the NFL. That, if Ben Johnson keeps his rates, is going to drop almost 20 points to 54.8, one of the lowest in the NFL. That same rate and change from 11 personnel is going to shift to 12 personnel. And for the listeners at home, 11 personnel just means 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. That's why it's called 11. 1 running back, 1 tight end. 12 personnel is 1 running back and 2 tight ends, which will make sense why they drafted Colson Loveland, even though they already have Cole Kmet, who's an okay tight end. They want to run more 12 personnel with Ben Johnson, right? So you're going from a team that's running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets to a team that's running a lot of 2 tight end and 2 wide receiver sets with 1 running back, right? So from 11 personnel, the shift is going to be 72.4%, which is one of the highest rates of 11 personnel, to 54.8, which is one of the lowest. 11 personnel is the most common used personnel packages for offenses in the NFL, and they're cutting that by almost 20 points. Their 12 personnel rate is going to increase from 19.1 to 32.3. Almost a third of the snaps are going to be in 12 personnel with Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland, which Colson Loveland is a damn good route runner, especially out of the slot. If you're in fantasy drafts, I'm taking Colson Loveland over Luther Burden because Luther Burden's a damn good athlete, but Colson Loveland's going to get a lot more usage and a lot more targets than Luther Burden's going to get just because of the shift from 11 personnel packages to 12 personnel packages, right?
Yeah.
The last thing I'm going to bring up is the shift in shotgun to under center, and this is going to affect Caleb Williams the most. The Bears ran one of the most shotgun-heavy teams at 68.5%. That's going to shift to 42.7 with Ben Johnson, or somewhere in that ballpark. And then the under center usage is going to increase from 28.4, which was the lowest in the NFL, to 57.2, which is the highest. So getting out of shotgun to going more under center, that's going to be a big shift for Caleb Williams. And I think the biggest pressure lies with him, especially one, because he's a quarterback, but 2, he's never played an offense with this much under center and this much where you're turning. Because when you run play action out of gun, your eyes are obviously on the defense, right? Because the running back's coming in front of you. You get to read it out, right? That's why Jalen Hurts has been as good as he is. Because play action, he doesn't have to turn his back. His eyes are glued there, right? Same thing with Lamar Jackson. That's why Lamar Jackson is so effective. He doesn't turn his back to the defense. When you have to turn your back to the defense, as soon as your eyes snap around to the backfield to the linebackers, you have to make a decision like that if you're throwing the ball or not. And Caleb Williams has never been asked to do that, or rarely has been asked to do that as much as he has been in shotgun. So if anyone can do it, I do think it's Caleb, but I think this is going to be a massive shift for him in terms of how this offense functions and how he plays as a quarterback. And we've seen that early on throughout training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything, I guess I should say, is there anything from what you've seen the Lions run last year? Because look, let's talk about Caleb Williams for a second. He had, by NFL standards, he had, a solid to above average season, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of rookie Bears quarterbacks, he probably had the best season ever, right? Yeah. I'm just looking at his he has almost pretty much every single passing rookie record in Bears history last season. So for you, where do you want to see him kind of open up the most, aside from the play action stuff that you talked about?
Stop holding the ball for so damn long. That's like you can look at he was 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And people say, well, he was good at protecting the football. He was only good at protecting the football because he'd rather take a sack than turn the ball over, which in turn, when you take so many sacks as he did, he took 68 sacks and had a 28.2 pressure to sack rate. That is garbage. That sucks, dude. I love Caleb. I think he gets way more shit than he deserves. He's an emotional football player. He's passionate. He's a gunslinger. He's super athletic and mobile. But he tried to do too much for that offense last year, which had more than enough pieces to be halfway decent. And he just sucked. His time to throw was 3.03, which is time to throw is kind of there's no definitive answer. Is it too quick or too slow to get rid of the ball? But when you have a 3.03 time to throw and you're taking that many sacks and you're allowing that many pressures to turn into sacks, it's because he was so afraid of throwing it and forcing a turnover that he'd rather put his offense in a bad position. That's almost worse than taking risks, because usually risk, after a while, if let's say the risks aren't working out, after enough risk taking, they will work out at some point. He wasn't even taking risk. He was giving the bare minimum to this offense's quarterback. So I think this offense is going to force him to be more of a risk taker just based on the nature of you need to make better split-second decisions and just make split-second decisions in general. But when you look past the box score, he wasn't able to do that. And that's kind of like my hang-up with him after his rookie year. Like on paper, his rookie year was good, but when you look into the analytics, he was one of the worst quarterbacks we've seen in the past 5 years. And that's including guys like Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Mitch Trubisky at the end of his starting tenure, right? Like there's Nathan Peterman is in that list. Like he was worse than those guys in terms of what makes actual good quarterback play, right? Like, and so I kind of hope Ben Johnson can help rewrite that ship and say, hey, you're a generational talent. And I hate that people put that on him. I know I did myself, but like he legit is a generational talent. Like you can't deny that. Like, and a lot of quarterback success is based on situation like Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Bryce Young this year is going to be a perfect example of that. Like situation helps with that generational talent. And I think Ben Johnson is going to put his name into that bunch. Caleb Williams is going to be in that conversation. He's got to figure it out. And he's got to be better. He's got to be more of a risk taker and not just trying to mitigate risk. He's got to be, I don't give a shit that there's double coverage. I don't give a shit that there's an edge rusher like Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or Nick Bosa or Micah Parsons right in my face. I'm delivering this ball and I'm putting it on a rope to DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet, Luther Burden, Olamide Zaccheaus, because in week 16, 17, he's going to catch 2 touchdowns for no fucking reason. Like, he's going to give those guys a chance. And that's what I want to see from Caleb is take chances. Let your arm and let your athleticism do the fucking talking and push this ball downfield and make this Bears offense multi-dimensional and make defenses scared to play you every week. Because he can do that, but if he tells himself he can't because he needs to protect the ball, he is never, ever going to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot for Caleb Williams to work on this season. But, talking about going back to last season's second half collapse, we talked a lot about the offense. We talked about where Caleb struggled. We talked about where Matt Eberflus just completely lost control of this team. But, I mean, the defense, it was almost like watching 2 different units, right? The first 7 weeks of the season, going into the bye, they were on fire, and then the last 10, they were probably one of the most unorganized groups of defensive players that we've ever seen. So, can you talk about kind of what went wrong for the defense and how they can kind of avoid a collapse like that again?
I think it was a culmination of they felt like shit was hitting the fan too early in the season, especially after a loss like that. Like being 5-2 versus 4-3 doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're that close to being 5-2 and then you go 4-3 and then you have a rough stretch of divisional games coming up, like they took too many risks. Like we talk about risk taking on offense and how quarterbacks need to do that. Defenses, when you're in the position that they are, kind of need to help mitigate it a little bit more. It's kind of reverse psychology, right? But if we look at from weeks 1 to 17, they were 3rd in EPA per play allowed, 1st in EPA per dropback allowed, and then 4th and 2nd in success rate overall and passing, respectively. So you're looking at one of the top defenses. They were middle of the road run defense, but run defense is like, if you're average and your pass defense is good, you're going to be a top 10 defense in this league, right? Like passing defense matters much more than rushing defense, right? So we're looking at a defense that was top 5 in the NFL from week 1 to 17 from an efficiency standpoint. From weeks 8 to 18, after the Hail Mary, and including the Hail Mary, this is when it drops off. They went to 7th worst in EPA per allowed, so pretty much the 7th worst defense in the NFL. 8th worst in pass and rush defense in EPA allowed. 7th in success rate allowed overall, and then 5th and 10th in pass versus run. So 5th worst pass defense, 10th worst rush defense. And then if you want to look at that, after they had 3 straight losses in a row of 1 possession against all their divisional rivals, the Packers, Vikings, and Lions. They were then the 6th worst EPA per play allowed, 9th worst in EPA per dropback allowed, 6th worst in EPA per rush allowed, and then 3rd, 7th, and 4th in success rate in terms of overall versus the pass and versus the rush. This went from a top 5 defense to a bottom 10 real quick, all because of one play. And I don't want to say all because of one play, but when you look at the data, that one play completely transformed this team. Because you're going to play defense a lot differently if you're sitting at 5-2 and competing with the other guys in your division versus 4-3 and you got to play catch up, right? Like the whole mentality changes, and one play can literally change a team season. Example number 1 and Exhibit A is the Hail Mary against the Bears, and people will shit on Tyreek Stevenson, who we're going to talk about in a second, but like pumping up the crowd and like shit talking and whatever, like him being out of position really didn't change much about that play. It was a lucky tip that went into the hands of Noah Brown. Like something as lucky and shitty as that can change seasons for 2 teams respectively. Bears for the worst, and obviously the Commanders for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one guy that on the defensive side this year that you feel like could maybe make a change for the Bears, and that's their dark horse, Tyreek Stevenson, the quarterback. What do you like out of him?
So when I scouted him in college, he was really, really solid in man coverage. Now, has that fully translated to the NFL? Not necessarily, but he's barely ran man coverage since he's been in the NFL. And I want to look at just 2024 in general. So he played over 400 coverage snaps. I think he played 440, 442, something like that. There were 70 corners in the NFL, including outside corners and slot corners or nickels that fit that bill. He had the 2nd lowest man coverage snaps at 65. The only one ahead of him was rookie Tyke Smith. I think he had like 58 man coverage snaps, which Tyke is a better zone nickel corner than a man one. But that's another conversation for, the NFC South. But with that, he had the 5th lowest man rate overall, or man coverage rate, at 14.7%. With that, out of 70 corners, he was the 22nd highest graded man corner at 65.3%. So above average in man coverage, despite running it minimally, despite his skill set being, I'm a man corner, put me on an island, right? Mm-hmm. He was tied for the 29th lowest receiving rate allowed at 53.3%, which is good. He had the 18th lowest passer rating allowed at 75.4. So these are all good numbers, but now put it in the context of how much he's targeted in man coverage. He was targeted the most in man, or the 7th most in man coverage at 4.2 targets per, 4.2 snaps per target. So that means he's getting targeted frequently, and he's allowing relatively low rates of passer rating, completion percentage, and having a low man rate to begin with. So he's given low man rate situations. He's being targeted heavily in man situations, and despite that, he is performing at an above average to good level of man coverage. If you put him in a defense that's heavy man coverage, he's going to do really well. And that's exactly what Dennis Allen brings in from the Saints. We talked about last episode, there are some coordinators who are better as coordinators and are bad head coaches. Dennis Allen is the poster boy of that. He is a good defensive coordinator. He's not a good head coach. And any defense he's been a part of, you will see that when he is just a coordinator. He called the 3rd heaviest man defense in the NFL last year at 36.48% before he was fired. That means Tyreek Stevenson would go from 65 man coverage snaps to 161. He's more than doubling, and he's adding almost 100 more man coverage snaps, which would put him in the top 30 of man coverage volume. You're going to tell me he's not going to do well in this system? Like, he is probably going to be a top 10 man corner in the NFL when it's all said and done. Granted, this is going to be based on PFF. People will bring up a big hoopla about PFF grades. I don't think they're the end-all, be-all, but they're part of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's going to do damn well in man coverage. And I know we're talking about Tyreek Stevenson and man coverage defense, but I did want to bring up an honorable mention. One of my favorite players in last year's draft class was Austin Booker out of Kansas. I thought he was a really polished and really good pass rusher. he showed that in week 1 of the preseason. He was tied first in pure pass rush grade at 94.6%, and he had the best pass rush grade out of all defensive players in week 1 at a 96.7%. He got, granted, small sample size, but he had 6 true pass rush snaps and got pressures on 4 of them. 2/3 of the time, he was getting into the quarterback's lap on pass rushes in true pass rush situations. Him and Tyreek Stevenson and Austin Booker are going to be awesome on this defense next year with Dennis Allen running it, because he likes guys like Tyreek Stevenson and Austin Booker.
All right, so, a lot of things to prove for the Chicago Bears offense and their defense. Obviously, we got a lot of good acquisitions there. But for you, aside from, what can Caleb Williams do in this season? What can this new coach do? I kind of want to ask a question that encompasses all of that and ask you, for you to call this Bears season a success, what is the mark they have to hit? That could be a win total. That could be, say they make the postseason. That could be a certain spot in the postseason that you feel like is exactly where they should be. Or it could just be some sort of developmental quota that they have to hit. Like, you need to see Caleb Williams do this. You need to see the defense do this. You need to see Ben Johnson do this. What is that for you?
I think you have to beat each division team twice. And I don't care if that's at home or on the road. You need to beat the Vikings once, the Lions once, and the Packers once. You have to go 3-3 at the minimum in division matchups. If you don't go 3-3, you better hope you get to 9 or 10 wins. Because if you can't go 3-3 and you can't win at least 7 other games on your schedule with a last place schedule, I just don't know where this team can go forward besides more development and more turnover with this roster, right? Because Ryan Poles might be gone after this year if they have another 5-12 or 6-11 season. But if they are competitive and do well, and they trust him to make savvy trades and make good draft picks, then okay, that might help him. But Ryan Poles has made some really shoddy trades and really shoddy draft picks in the past. So this roster needs to elevate and needs to step up in a way we haven't seen the Bears step up since their postseason appearance where we saw the double doink, right? They need to step up in ways we haven't seen in a long time. This defense, I think, could be top 5 and match their cap allocation and match their salary that this total defense has. I think Caleb Williams could be a top 10 quarterback just based on talent. Now, will his scatterbrain take over? Will this offense not be tailored to what his skill set is? That's still left on the table, and we're going to see in 2025 where that lies. But if this team can go 8-9 or 9-8, I think they're in the right direction. If they can somehow make playoffs in a really tough division, that is going to be an awesome feeling for not just Bears fans, but the Bears themselves. Because I don't think playoffs are in their window.
So that would put them ahead of schedule for you.
If they make playoffs this year, they're well ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And I love Ben Johnson. I love Caleb Williams. I love how this defense is tailored with Dennis Allen calling the shots and who they have on defense. And I think this offensive line is improved and the weapons are improved. I think they're improved everywhere overall. With that being said, I don't see playoffs in their picture. So if they can make playoffs, they're ahead of schedule. If they don't make playoffs and don't win at least 50% of their division games, or they don't finish with 8 wins or more, I'm going to be really worried. 7-10 should be the bare minimum expectations for this team going into 2025.
And that's the thing for the Bears. I can understand why that puts them ahead of schedule for you, because in the NFC North alone, to be a playoff team out of that division, you have to win at least 9 games. I really think that's the bare minimum for any team in this division. Yeah. Because the winner of this division is going to win at least 11. I would say that's honestly.
I would say 12.
Yeah,
12.
Yeah, 11's not even that hard of a margin for, I think, whatever the best team in this division is going to be. That'd be worse. That'd be a regression for both the Vikings and the Lions.
Yeah, and the Packers won 11-6 and were the third best team in that division. So if somehow everyone finishes with 11 wins or less, holy shit, the Bears' window should be right there to win the division. It's
Bears fans really wishing they were in the NFC South this year.
Yes. Or the NFC East minus the Eagles.
Or the NFC East. I just know the NFC. Like, I just feel like in my lifetime, the division winner, the under 500 division winner, I feel like has come in the NFC South. Someone in fact check me on that. Like, more so than others.
I think the Panthers did it twice, if I'm not mistaken.
I know for a fact the Panthers did it at 7 and 9.
Winners NFL. Consisting of more than 4 teams. Okay, Reddit, don't be a douche. I know the Seahawks did it when they had the hold my dick run with Marshawn Lynch. I think the Panthers, I want to say they did it twice with Cam Newton, which is crazy.
Yeah, they definitely did it once.
Maybe they only did it once, but we'll see.
Did they win the division once with Cam Newton at 7 and 9, and then they won the division at 15 and 1?
Yes, with Cam Newton.
God,
I think like 2 years apart too. Like it was something crazy like that.
God, we were so blessed.
Dude, that Panthers team was crazy. It's just unfortunate they ran into one of the best defenses of all time, and that was the one game where Peyton Manning was slightly below average instead of a pumpkin. Like,
not to make myself sound older than I am, but like, man, like I'm so thankful every day that I got to watch prime Cam Newton. Like,
dude, he was so good.
You know what I mean?
Prime Cam Newton day was crazy. Like, and we knew at the time, like, he wasn't the best quarterback, but he was one of the best players to hit the field, which we talked about last episode. But like, oh my God.
All right,
he was awesome.
This might really be a dated reference, but if you remember the show Sports Nation, I feel the epitome of just like not that I'm not like one of those people that like, you know, the NFL was only, or, you know, any given league was only good like when I was like 12, but like something that just shows like how great it was back then, not even more so than now, but just like a testament to that era, was the Sports Nation. I think it was Madden 13, right? Where it was like the bracket of the Madden cover athlete was between Cam Newton and Megatron.
Oh, yeah. Madden 25, I think. Oh, no, it was Madden 13. Madden 13.
Yeah, right. Calvin Johnson ended up winning it, which obviously was well-deserved. But, I mean, just the fact that Cam Newton could have been like a cover athlete like that early in his career was just sick. Anyway,
awesome.
Long side tangent. NFC North going to be a really good division. It's going to be really awesome. Probably the home of the 1 seed in the NFC. Like, if any division has the highest chance. Yeah. I mean, like, I just feel like they have the most teams in that division that could contend for the 1 seed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So with that, we've got 3 divisions down, 12 teams down, and we're still going to be going. We're cranking out more podcasts throughout the next 2 to 3 weeks before the season kicks off on September 4th. So make sure you head over to house-enterprise.com for continued preseason football coverage. We've got our college football top 25 already up on the site. Jordan and I both voted in that, so that's going to be really important to check out before the college football season kicks off on August 23rd. If you want more detailed coverage for the 12 teams we've covered so far, just in their own little video, you'll be able to see that on our House Enterprise YouTube channel. We're putting them all in a playlist for you. And then you can keep listening to the Basel Pod wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, on houseenterprise.com, or anywhere else, really. So, for Jordan Laube, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the Basel Pod, and we'll see you guys next time.